Hey, what is up guys? It's your boy Speed here, and today we're going to be going over 5 Dota hot takes. Apologize if my volume is off. I got a recent surgery on my nose. I doubt you can tell, nor do you probably care. But we're going to be going over 5 Dota hot takes, 5 concepts that I think are overlooked, and let's get into it. Alright, so coming into number 1, we have Kobold small camps should be removed. Now, most of these points are going to apply to all roles, but this one primarily applies to the support role. If you're a support player, you know what I'm talking about. There are a multitude of camps that can spawn in the small camp, and they actually have major varying effects on what happens. If you don't know what happens in some of the camps, well, let me explain. So for instance, there's a camp called the Vul Assassin camp. This camp is really significant because if you're a support player and you pull the camp while you have a Tango running or a Salve running or you pop your stick, you have 75% healing reduction. And as a result, these items just don't really work. On top of that, if you get something like the Kobold camp, which is the main point of this video, your pull is basically useless. So 5 out of the 6 camps that you can get will kill at least 2 creeps. However, if you get the Kobold camp, it won't kill any creeps. And this basically makes it not pointless to pull because it still resets equilibrium in some cases, but pretty close to pointless. The main point of pulling is, well, to get a little bit of gold, which you do, but it's kind of less because it's hard to last hit these creeps, and to deny creeps, which you just cannot do. And so I don't like that there's just this random chance where you spend a good amount of effort as a support player to unblock the pull camp to make sure you have that option, and then it just doesn't mean anything. And so yeah, essentially I think it should be removed. The only hero this like hyper benefits is Alchemist, which, I mean, yeah, he could use a nerf. Okay, coming in at number 2, Raindrops are still severely underpurchased. Even in the pro scene, I genuinely believe Raindrops are just one of the most underpurchased items in the game. So if you're not a Raindrop enthusiast like I am, let me quickly read off the item description. It's 225 gold, which is barely more expensive than a stick. It gives 0.8 mana regen, which, by the way guys, for reference, Sage's Mask, which is the item that gives mana regen, gives 0.7 for only 50 less gold. So Raindrop gives a bit more mana regen than the mana regen item, and then on top of that, it gives 120 damage block every 7 seconds. It has only 6 charges, so yeah, the downside is you can run out of it, but in the early game, this item just is broken, because in some early game fights, you're going to tank multiple instances over the course of like 14 seconds of magic damage, and you're going to be able to block all of them. This is the highest HP item in the game, and with HP, you typically need some form of mana regen. That's why Magic Wand is a broken item in Dota. You need this spread of mana regen and HP regen in Dota so you can just play the game. And so Raindrops are straight up broken, guys. The reality is if you never buy this item, you're just making a mistake. It's a broken item. If your hero needs HP, you shouldn't buy Fluffy Hat, you should buy Raindrops. If your hero needs mana regen, you should be probably buying Raindrops instead of a Sage's Mask. The fact that a lot of carry players will still buy Ring of Bassi as a mana regen item casually is mind-blowing to me. Why would you buy a 425 gold item that gives 1.25 mana regen for almost double the cost of Raindrops when you could have 0.8 and health for about half? It just doesn't make sense. Raindrops are completely overtuned, and so that's point number 2. Point number 3 is that tilt is the #1 cause of MMR loss. So what do I mean by this? I think a lot of people, and actually this is an interesting idea, a lot of people think, and I definitely think, that people who tilt easily tend to be actually slightly higher mechanical skill than people who don't tilt easily. If you don't understand what I'm saying, basically, people who get mad really easily actually often are better at clicking buttons. I don't think it's by some super high amount, but if you have a Legend 5 player that tilts really easily and a Legend 5 player that doesn't tilt really easily, I actually think typically the Legend 5 player that tilts is slightly better at clicking buttons. I don't think they're smarter about the game. I don't think they necessarily will have better game knowledge. They might. They might. But they're usually like better at playing their heroes. And the reason why is players that tilt just get held back in MMR. And there's multiple reasons for this. Number 1, you're just going to lose games because you're going to make people hit your guts, right? And they're going to stop trying. That's number 1 for sure. And number 2, and I would say equally as importantly, maybe more important, is that you can't even learn the game. The way you gain MMR is by learning Dota. It's by making better decisions from game to game. And it's small increments, small improvements. So if you are tilted, you will never see these small improvements because it requires quite a bit of focus. right? Dota is draining if you're actually trying to get good at it, because the improvements needed to gain MMR are really, really small. That is why if you watch a pro game and you don't understand Dota, you're going to think, oh, I do a lot of the things that pros do. And that's true, but you also don't do most of the things that they do. The small things, where they are based on the clock, matchups, right? Items, movements, wards, vision. You won't see these things. You just can't even see it. And so if you're wondering, how do I see these things? Subscribe to the gameleap website, obviously. But all jokes aside, like, yeah, listen to people who are better than you. That is the best thing you can do. Genuinely, I'm not just saying that for the sake of, gameleap. There's plenty of Dota channels. Actually, that's not really true. There's not that many. There's like a few. I've actually seen, I forget their name. And you can learn from all these channels. You can learn from my channel, of course, as well. That's the number one way. But getting back to the point, tilt is the number one cause of MMR loss. If you're stuck in your current bracket, the best thing you can do is look inwards right now. I don't think people understand. They think that I'm telling them that they should never get frustrated. That's ridiculous. In fact, one of the most fun things about Dota is feeling passionate, feeling kind of frustrated. It's a little fun. It's like, wow, this game kind of gets me going. My teammate messed up. I feel some sort of way about that. That's okay. That's so normal. You know what's not normal? Having 90% of your future thoughts for the next 3 hours be about how bad your teammates are. Or for the next 3 months, if you look at some of the people in the gameleap Discord. Shout out you guys. No, but I'm serious. Like, that's when it becomes a problem, when it becomes persistent, constant. Occasionally, fine. You're just loving the game. You give a shit. Like, that's great. That's fun. It's actually going to make you get better because you care. But once it becomes constant and you can't look inwards, you're done. All right, coming in at number 4, this is maybe the most important, and that is bounty and wisdom runes are still heavily undervalued. So first of all, to talk about, and I would even like to add couriers to this, but I want to make another video on that. But bounty runes give, in the early game, about 40 to 45 gold, right? And that's to 5 heroes, so it's about 200 gold. It's more than that. That's a lot of gold, right? Just think about it. That's like, what, 7 last hits or something like that? I mean, that's huge. Absolutely massive. It's going to speed up early game timings for certain heroes by a big margin. Earlier stick, earlier mana boots, set of tangos, a sentry ward to unblock a camp, a bottle. Right? I mean, if you get 3 bounty runes and the enemy team gets only 1, your mid is getting their bottle 90 gold faster. I mean, that will make the difference. In some lanes, it will break the lane because the enemy mid might not get their bottle in time for the 2-minute water runes. I mean, bounty runes pre-game are kind of understood. People pick them up. I'm more talking about minute 3, 6, 9, 12. All of the 3 minutes afterwards, people just kind of forget how good these runes actually are. But more important are wisdom runes. Take this very seriously. In high MMR, in the majority of games, people will, and I mean far majority, people will be on the wisdom runes at minute 7. Not at 7:05, not at 7:02, not at 7:01, 7. If you look at your current games and you go to your replays and you see that people are on the runes at 7:10, 7:05, 7:30, you have a way to break the game. Wisdom runes are broken. If you are a pos 5 or a pos 4 player, if you are a carry or an offlaner, if you are a mid laner, anyone can do this. If you have good enough clock awareness and you can look at the clock constantly, which every top MMR player does, they are constantly looking at the clock to see what objective is next. Bounty rune, wisdom rune, power rune, nighttime, daytime, all of these things, right? They're looking at stack timers, right? They're constantly looking at these things. The wisdom rune is the biggest. It is the biggest early game objective in the game. And so when you hear that, now that should be in the back of your mind. The wisdom rune is the biggest early game objective in the game. It is more important than getting a kill. Okay? So if you are trading a kill for a wisdom rune, you are messing up. In most cases, there are exceptions. There are, of course, exceptions to this. There definitely is. But yeah, get there at 7. Steal the enemy wisdom. Start taking the risk. And there's a lot of things you can learn about this. For instance, heroes with stuns, hero like Shadow Demon or Lion or Clockwork should be heavily contesting wisdom runes because they have a disable, so they will be able to guarantee the rune if the enemy hero does not or has a lower duration disable. Every time I contest a wisdom rune, I look at the enemy heroes and I say, who has a better stun? Especially for me, I have to play my games on Europe so I can practice in a better region. No offense, NA. I have to play in Europe. I have bad ping. If I 50-50 a rune, I will never get it. When I go to try to steal a wisdom, which I do frequently, even with bad ping, I look and say, are they there? That's number 1. Can they even be there? And number 2, who has the better stun? And I think this every single game. So if you never think this, there's something to improve on. That's what I'm talking about. All right, last but not least, gonna keep this one short, but mass stacking is hyper underrated. I think a big part of Dota's future, probably in 3-ish years, because I think it's going to take a long time before it becomes like a key part of like the average player's gameplay, maybe in 3 to 5 years, is mass stacking. So there's a few heroes in Dota. To name a few, Chen, Enigma. I think these are the main 2, Chen, Enigma. There's like stuff like Shadow Demon, some cheese, but certain unit heroes can stack 3, 4, 5 camps a minute. Chen can actually stack 6 if you do it properly. And I believe that this concept, it's potentially broken, right? Obviously, the downside of mass stacking is that you're not looking to make moves. You're not contesting a rune, potentially. You're not looking for a kill. And if the enemy is killing your team and you're just stacking, I mean, they might just go and steal your stacks. And so there are drawbacks to this strategy. But the reality of mass stacking is that when you stack a camp for an ally, if they have good clear, they're getting double the gold when they kill that camp. And you're getting a percentage of it, right? You get a percentage of the XP and a percentage of the gold. And so it's just hyper efficient. You can basically farm an entire free neutral camp, as well as create 3, 4, 5 times the amount of gold on the map for your cores every single minute. And how I think the game will progress, this is more theory crafting. I would say the other points in this video are a lot more practical for just improving like right now. Basically, as time goes on and people get better and better and better at managing the clock, I think what they're going to do is they'll spend the first half of the minute. So let's say it's minute 6, exactly. They're going to spend that first half minute looking for a move, looking for a kill, trying to make a play. Once 6:30 hits around there, if they haven't found that move, or the move is ending, the play is ending, then they're going to back up, spread out, stack a bunch of camps. And if they're a hero like Enigma, or they're a hero like Chen, or any of these unit heroes, I mean, stacking in general needs to be improved upon. Most people just completely suck at it. So like, this video could just be stacking. I mean, I could have just said stacking is hyper underrated, and that would be true as well. And alright, that's going to be about all for today's video. I mean, I guess the last thing I'd say about stacking that I think is really, really broken is neutral items. Right? Neutral items, to me, are really overpowered. And I've been saying this in a lot of videos, but I think, for the sake of improvement, guys, be very aware of your neutral item slot. At minute 7, if you get a Seeds of Serenity, or a Jelly, or a Safety Bubble, or even, let's say you're playing something like Gyrocopter, and you get a Spark of Courage, that 18 damage, or is it 16? Whatever, you get the point, is insane. I mean, these numbers are crazy on these neutral items. I always say this in my videos. I respect most neutral items as a 700 to an 1,000 gold item. I mean, compare something like Seeds of Serenity to a Falcon Blade. I would say it's probably a little bit worse, right? Comparable, definitely worse. And so, about 700 gold, right? Somewhere around there. And so, these items are absurd. I mean, you're not making any move on the map that is close to as effective as getting a neutral item. And people don't think this way because it's in the back of their head. They're like, I'm going to get it eventually. Why would you think that way? Imagine you could get a Falcon Blade out of a small camp, right? Like just casually, and it would go in your inventory. People would be farming way, 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 way more. Obviously, it's kind of a stupid comparison because you get to put it in your inventory and you have 6 slots, but you get the point, right? These items are broken. If you make a move with 700 or 1,000 more net worth, especially as a support where net worth is more important because you have less of it, it breaks the game. And so mass stacking and stacking in general also helps with that a lot. But okay, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one, and I'm out.
And that's all. But remember, before you leave, before you tune out, subscribe to the gameleap website where we are going to help you get to the next rank. If you're stuck, click the link down below, and I'm out. Peace.